She was the first woman to lead South Africa's prosecuting authority, a symbol of reform, a promise of justice. But 7 years later, the question remains, did Shamila Batohi change the NPA, or did the NPA become worse? Born in Durban in 1960, her early legal career in apartheid-era South Africa began. She rose through the ranks through the KwaZulu-Natal Director of Public Prosecutions. Internationally, she became the legal advisor of the ICC in The Hague. She was then subsequently appointed as the NDPP in 2018 by President Cyril Ramaphosa amid state capture fallout. Hello everyone and welcome to In Layman's Terms. And today we are looking at the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Ms. Shamila Batohi, who is actually soon set to be retiring the end of January, prior to the end of her term, which is actually a first for us South Africans, that we've had a National Director of Public Prosecutions serve their entire term and not leave because of controversy. Batohi arrived with a clean record and global credentials. She wasn't just a prosecutor, she was a symbol of institutional reset. The expectation was for her to clean up the NPA, to prosecute state capture and to restore credibility, to root out the internal rot in the hollowed out institutions of political interference and basically to boost morale. In her own words, she indicated that we will not prosecute in the court of public opinion. Batohi promised independence, but independence without velocity is inertia.
We have been working very, very closely together, and we'll elaborate on that in a bit. To achieve our vision, the NPA must collaborate with its governmental partners, including particularly the police and the courts. I have made it one of my priorities to reach out to our partners and candidly discuss challenges, and there are many, which have impeded effective cooperation. I have met with the police commissioner, and we've had an extremely constructive and positive discussion about how to move things forward. I have had several meetings with Lieutenant General Sitoli, the head of the Hawks. We all recognize that there are huge challenges in law enforcement, including in the prosecutions. For example, lack of skills, lack of discipline, corruption, etc. And these all have to be addressed. However, we have been working very closely to address various priority cases. We've also been working with the Financial Intelligence Center, the Special Investigating Unit, and the South African Revenue Service, amongst others. Stakeholder engagement. I have sought to reach out to the business sector and civil society groups, which represent important constituencies in South Africa. My outreach efforts include South Africa's development partners, including the foreign diplomatic community, who are watching very carefully whether we can reverse the effects of years of state capture in order to place South Africa back on a positive development and economic trajectory, to restore the rule of law and build confidence in our institutions. Strengthening morale and empowering the NPA staff. On my first day in office, I requested that a staff survey be undertaken. New in my position as NDPP, I wanted to hear from everyone in the NPA. The NPA succeeds or fails on the ability, skills, and knowledge of our people, our greatest asset and resource. To succeed, we must nurture and empower all our...
But the cracks were just not in the cases, they were in the command, and Batohi's own words now echo in the public's despair. High-profile failures, including Zuma delays, the lack of the Gupta extraditions, slow pace on state capture, internal tensions, fallout with Hermione Cronje, resignations, factionalism, all marred the NPA under her leadership. The Tim Omodosa case collapsed, Batohi told Parliament that the NPA takes full responsibility for its failure. Ad hoc committee probing criminal justice corruption. Batohi testifies amid allegations of syndicate infiltration, but refuses to name names. Her credibility is now questioned not just by critics, but by the system she leads herself.
As a matter of policy in the NPA, when there are disciplinary processes, we do not make any public statements about them. And even though in this case one might argue that the names have been bandied around in public, I don't want to fall foul of our own policy and mention names in this forum, because that is the policy of the NPA. But the names have certainly been mentioned in public in this instance, many of the names.
So we're going to have the same situation as we have earlier. I guess it's something we can discuss when we take the name of the prosecutor that has been investigated. I guess you're going to say the same thing about the politicians who you said who were involved in Vusi Pekole's prosecution or withdrawal of charges, his case. That was also a conversation.
He was suspended by the president and the ministers at the ministers.
So you're saying it was the president and the ministers that interfered with the case?
All I said is there was involvement of politicians, because they of necessity suspended him.
The other one, my other question, which was already answered by asked, was the Scorpions versus IDEC question. It was already asked, but in the same breath, the Scorpions was.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to show you is a back and forth between the ad hoc parliamentary committee and Shamila Batohi when she's asked to disclose the name of the prosecutor who has subsequently been placed on suspension as a result of them being involved in corruption, right? This is actually public knowledge. Everybody knows the name of this person, but for some or other reason, she's refusing to give the name. The funny part about it is that even at this present moment when I'm recording this, there's a parliamentary or there's an inquiry into this particular Chauke prosecutor, whether or not they are fit to stand as a prosecutor. But for some or other reason, during the ad hoc committee presentations, she was refusing to disclose the name, and I still cannot for the life of me figure out why.
To the ones that we put together. And I do want to emphasize that our prosecutors traveled on a number of occasions to work with the prosecutors in UAE to make sure that our papers were in order. Thank you, Chair.
But you are aware that this judgment was 2023 March?
I'm aware of that.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Honorable Ngola.
Thank you very much, Chair. NPA, is it your evidence that requesting information from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development in line with the Commissions Act is a hindered access?
Sorry, Honourable Member, I didn't get the full
I am saying,
import.
is it the evidence of the NPA before this committee that requesting Zondo Commission information from the Department of Justice in line with the Commissions Act is a hindered access?
I'm not sure about the part you see, in line with the Commissions Act, my understanding is, and I'm not sure what part of the Commissions Act.
The Commissions Act actually says the custodian of commission work is in the Department of Justice.
That is correct.
Yeah. So is you complying with the Commissions Act a hindered access?
Well, it's an access by way of requesting the department for information.
So that's what you call the hindered access?
Well, I suppose it could be termed in that way, because we don't have access directly into the database. But I want to add that there have been recent discussions between the IDAC and the department where they have reached some agreement about IDAC investigators getting better access. So
no, but NTPP, I want you to take us to how is requesting information from the department in line with the law a hindrance?
When we say unhindered access, I fully understand that the department is the custodian of the information from the Zondo Commission. And that is why, at the time, although there was an original agreement that the entire database will be sent to the NPA, we realized that the department is a custodian. So that is a correct process. But we need to find a way of, within that context, the IDAC getting the information that it needs from the Zondo database.
Okay, the department committed to train and give full access pins and other things to prosecutors so that it makes it easy for you to access that information. Has that been done?
There was some training that was done. That is correct. Some IDAC investigators were trained. But they still, my understanding, and I don't have all the information, so I stand to be corrected, is that even those that were given this access, that were trained, had access to a particular part of the database and not the entire database. That is my understanding. But now it is something that, as I said, IDAC is working with the department to make sure that we're able to access what we need. This is a recent development, and I would just ask that we allow that process to unfold to see if this better access works for the IDAC.
Okay.
And, you know...
So the law requires you to follow a particular procedure for you to access information. The department, further to help you, trains prosecutors. But you still come here and say you have got hindered access to the Zondo Commission information.
If I may say, I agreed to a suggestion that the honourable member had made to me in using that terminology. I was trying to explain with respect what exactly the process is. So initially, as I said, and I'm repeating myself, forgive me, but the entire database was meant to come to the NPA. That was the agreement that we had. But later on, the Department of Justice said that that should not happen because correctly they are the custodians and that all of that information will be under the department's control. We've then had a long history of the training took place probably more than 2 years ago or so of some investigators. And there's been a long history of us trying to get the access that we need.
So this is in a roundabout way the reason why there was, or there is currently still a delay with regard to the Gupta repatriation, as well as that Bushiri repatriation, which can no longer take place because a Malawian court has now declared him, absolved him basically of having to come back to South Africa and answer for his deeds. So my question to you is, do you think that she was successful in the execution of her duties? Do you think that she reformed the NPA? Do you think that she cleaned house? Do you think that she reformed the image of the NPA? Or, I'll give you my honest opinion. In my opinion, I believe that the NPA, since the days of Vusi Pigoli, ever since then, they have a tarnished reputation, and seemingly they are not able to, or the judiciary or the president of this country is not able to appoint a person who is actually able to reform, because I don't believe she's incompetent, but for some other reason it seems that these people are unable to reform processes, that are unable to reform the actual image of the NPA, and they're just basically failing dismally at this particular point in time. And no, I don't think she was successful. No, I do not believe that she's met the criteria that she set out to meet herself. And I think we are actually hugely disappointed as South Africans with regards to her leadership. I don't know who is actually... I actually did read an article with regard to people whom are being looked at to take over from her. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see who is appointed to take over from her given the fact that we've got this whole Matlanka Commission, the whole Mkhwanazi allegations being investigated, given the fact that we are facing local government elections, and I don't believe that the ANC is in a comfortable position, it'll be very interesting to see who is appointed to take over from Shamila Batohi. As I indicated, she's less than 2 months from retiring and serving as the NDPP at the end of January 2026. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.